And all right, we are live. Welcome back, everyone, to another week of the Endless Report. This is episode 31. We are back with a lot of news this week, actually. Some interesting stuff. Some video game news, of course, obviously. Some TV news surrounding the video game industry. Some interesting stuff there you might have seen from the thumbnail. So, as always, we're going to go over the releases this week and then get right into the news. This not much else this week other than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 that came out today on the 28th. Probably the biggest blockbuster release of the year, besides a few other notable games later on this fall. But other than that, nothing too crazy big this week. But we have a few news stories that I think are definitely worth sharing. So as always, we're going to get right onto the docket and see if we can get started here. Starting off with our first story. This comes straight from Valve. Of course, Steam has broken its own concurrent record of 30 million users this weekend. So what that means basically is that there has been no larger amount of players ever online concurrently on Steam at the same time more than this past weekend, meaning that there have been more people playing PC gaming, at least online at once, on Steam, more so than ever this last week, which is very, very a great metric for Steam, of course, and a great metric for gaming in general. It shows that gaming is not dying down in the slightest. In fact, probably growing more than ever, as we've seen, both financially, commercially, with the way games are progressing and growing. It's a very clear trend here, but very interesting to see this metric. Not much else to say on this other than the headline, just because it's very self-explanatory. But as you can see here, as revealed by Steam Database, it's an independent website, actually not run by Steam, but you can get kind of user metrics here and get a rough sense of the amount of players, and obviously a rough sense of 30 million or so players were able to be analyzed through the website. So it's definitely has some accurate data there to some extent. But I just want to point out it's not an official Steam database, so you have to take that as you will. That being said, those are all confirmed players, just from analyzing Steam data and seeing all the games over Steam and the current player bases over that weekend. But over the weekend of Sunday, October 23rd, the biggest games being played at the time were Counter-Strike, Dota, Lost Ark, Apex Legends, and PUBG Battlegrounds. Not super surprising for at least for a few of those, especially Counter-Strike. It feels like it's always the top played game on Steam. But again, there's a very interesting metric. I thought it'd be a great way to start the show. Again, that was last weekend, so happened earlier in the week as well, chronologically. That being said, we have a ton to cover today, so as you can tell, I'm going to keep moving through the docket here. But our next story is very interesting as well. So if you bear with me one moment, we will switch over the docket here, and I'll throw that up. But this is something we talked about, I wouldn't say at length, but pretty extensively last week and the week prior, due to some other news surrounding it. But this was the Fallout 25th anniversary. So with it being the 25th anniversary of the franchise, we've been getting a lot of announcements, most notably in the past, some stuff about Fallout New Vegas and a potential new Fallout game. We covered that last week, but this week we have some interesting news surrounding not only the last Fallout game, Fallout 4, but also some other stuff on the docket. So I'm going to start off with Fallout 4, and we'll get into that. So as you can see here on screen now, Fallout 4 is getting a next-gen upgrade for PS5 and Xbox Series X. This is something that people have been waiting for a while. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of games people have been waiting for this next-gen upgrade for, given all of the free upgrades we've had for 60 FPS, 4K resolution, what have you, and also the paid upgrades we've had for large-scale, full-fledged next-gen kind of remasters, or adding new lighting, textures, effects, and the like. So we've seen, different varieties of all of that, to different, lengths and different scales here. Obviously, The Last of Us Part 1 is the most recent, I'd say, notable remake where we got a full, graphical upgrade for the PS5 over the PS3 and PS4 versions of that game. That being said, this seems more in line with other upgrades we've gotten. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to price this similarly to the Skyrim next-gen upgrades. I believe that was $10 if you got that anniversary upgrade, and I think it was free if you already had the older special edition. So I'm hoping they take a similar route there, just so, I'm not sure how many people want to pay an upgrade price or even a full $60, $70 price for Fallout 4 in next year, but we will have to see on that. That being said, I do think overall it's a positive thing. Fallout 4 is probably the last mainline Fallout we're going to have for a while. I mean, we talked about this at length last episode, so I won't get too in-depth in that, but we're looking at least another 5 to 10 years for another Fallout game, Bethesda or not. So definitely getting Fallout 4 in a better next-gen state and allowing people to, have it a little more accessible, I think is 100% a good thing. That being said, this is not the only Fallout news we got this week, as I said earlier. So I'm going to pull up this next article, but this is not even an article. This is just a tweet, actually. We got this live from Amazon Prime Video and Kilter Films, who are producing the new Fallout television show. So we've talked a lot about video game shows on the podcast here. This is something that's I think a lot of people, understandably, are very cautiously optimistic about, given the other video game shows we've had. Again, we've talked about this a lot, but the Halo show that happened recently, the Witcher television show. We have The Last of Us coming up on HBO next year as well. Very intriguing. But speaking of Fallout here, we got our first screenshot ever from the series. I thought this was almost concept art for a moment, but this is actually a full screenshot, and you can see it's a little larger on the screen here. Again, a lot of lens flare there. It's very tough to see, any character distinctions or any actors. That being said, we can see a few details here that are definitely worth noting. First off, obviously, if you're a fan of the Fallout series, you'll recognize what's going on here. If not, I'll try to give a little bit of context without spoiling the Fallout universe too much for the upcoming TV series. But in Fallout, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic world after a nuclear fallout, of course, in America. And as you can see here, there are these vaults across America that are being built by a private company before the impending nuclear doom. Kind of think of Cold War era, but more so, this is kind of has a 1950s aesthetic. I think of like post-futurism, what people in the 1950s would have thought the future, the 21st century would look like, is kind of what Fallout's aesthetic is, if you're not familiar with the Fallout universe. That being said, there are these vaults across the country, and people go into the vaults, before the bombs drop, and then come out later into this nuclear apocalyptic wasteland to see if they can try to reclaim some sense of the old, way of humanity. That being said, that's kind of my intro to the Fallout universe. That being said, you can see here they have number 33 on these suits. This is Vault 33, vault we haven't seen in the games before. We're usually in the hundreds or the 80s around there, but this looks like a West Coast vault, which is very interesting. So we're wondering where exactly this show is going to be taking place, what kind of storyline. That being said, we do know it has been filming on the East Coast, actually in Staten Island, right around me, in New York here. So it'll be interesting to see how they turn Staten Island, New York into a West Coast apocalypse. We'll have to see how that looks on screen, but I'm very confident with the production team here. That being said, I should mention the production team. This is Kilter Films, Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, if you may know from the Westworld television show on HBO. They showrun that, and they're now showrunning this show as well. So I was a big fan of Westworld. I admittedly have not caught up in the last season, so I can't say too much on it there, but I was very much a fan of the earlier seasons of Westworld. I think it's great sci-fi. I think this show is in great hands. Again, as I said about video game shows, there's always this, caution, and for good reason. It's very tough, especially with adaptations in general, to adapt any medium directly to a big budget giant television show and be very successful on that. That being said, if anyone can pull it off of Fallout, I really think this is one of the best teams they could have gotten. I do think I don't want to get too into my predictions on the show too much, because I do want to move on in a moment here to some other Fallout news and we have a lot more to talk about. That being said, I did mention it is starring Walton Goggins. If you know him, I'm probably underserving his resume here, but I do know him from Vice Principals on HBO, a comedy as well. He's been in a lot of comedies, but also a very great dramatic actor. He's been in, I believe, Westworld as well, so it makes sense why they're still working with him. He's also been in, I'm forgetting one of his big ones. I don't think he was in True Detective. I would be speaking there to say that, but he has been in a lot of great dramas and comedies, and I think kind of teetering on this Fallout sense of humor, because I think there's going to be a lot of humor in this show. I think he's gonna be a great fit, and I'm curious to see how they'll handle that kind of dramedy aspect of it. That being said, I do want to continue here with the same story. We have one more piece of the puzzle here, and that is the Fallout TV series. And excuse all the Call of Duty ads. We'll get to some Call of Duty news later on, but this is indeed a Bethesda article here. So as you can see, I'm not gonna play this whole video. I'm just gonna skip through because we don't have audio here. But they did give a kind of little introductory series to the history of Fallout, how they felt about adapting it to TV or movies for the longest time, or the last 20 years. They talked about here, different movie adaptations that could have happened over the last 20 years that they were pitched to them. They denied them. They were waiting for a long time to find the right fit for Fallout, apparently. And finally, it is here with Kilter Films. And I'll skip to the end here. That's Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, the showrunners there of Westworld, of Kilter Films here. That's Todd Howard, the game director of Bethesda Game Studios. And here's Jonathan Nolan again. And this was the clip I wanted to show just because they kind of have a fake kind of tongue-in-cheek interview here. He says, "What's Fallout?" I'm not sure I've heard of that. And then they have someone in a Fallout power armor here hand him a bottle of Nuka-Cola. If you're not aware, Nuka-Cola is the fake Coca-Cola brand in the Fallout universe. So they're kind of doing a little goofy teaser video from the set. You could see that deserty wasteland area. You saw that giant Fallout power armor there. So we're getting into, right into the Fallout scenery here. Again, I don't even really want to speculate much more because I'm excited for the show myself. Again, I don't know much else other than just it's the Western, West Coast, it's a Fallout setting, and that's enough to get me excited with this cast and crew. So that about wraps it up for that story. Again, this is just more article discussing the TV show, Westworld's Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, and everything that they're feeling about the TV show. But again, as I said, I feel like it's in good hands, and I'm excited to see what comes next with Fallout. Again, I would love a new game, and I would love for it not to be like a decade or so out. But we'll see what happens with the game series for now. But I'm still a Fallout fan. I'm very, very excited to see what's next in the Fallout universe. That being said, we have more from Bethesda coming up with Starfield next year. We'll have more, hopefully, in the Elder Scrolls universe as well after that. But a lot going on with Fallout a while to go there, so we will wait on that and see what's next. But that being said, we're going to move on here to our next story. This one is a continuation again of another story we covered. I believe it either last episode or the episode before. We discussed how CD Projekt Red had talked about their future plans for the Witcher series, for Cyberpunk 2077, its expansions, and its sequel. And they had multiple Witcher projects on the docket there. So now we get some more information on one of them. I believe this was called Canis Majora. I may be incorrect. Yep, Canis Majora, excuse me. This was one of the code names they had. Both the Witcher sequel trilogy, I guess, coming up. They have Witcher 4 and potentially 5 and 6 after that one being built in Unreal. They also have some other side Witcher projects, including this one, which is the Witcher original title, the original first game, being fully rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5, which is very, very interesting. We got a little better view of the icon, the logo there, and I try to get a zoom on that. That's about the best I can do there. So very cool to see that. Again, that was the codename Canis Majoris we saw last week, and now we're fully getting revealed exactly what this game is. They said it was a remake being collaborated with another studio. We now know it was Fool's Theory who's working with them, and it's an Unreal Engine 5 full remake, and they have a little link there to the website. Again, not much else to say on that other than just a quotable here from CD Projekt Red. They said, "The Witcher is where it all started for us, of course." For CD Projekt Red, it was the first game we made ever, and it was a big moment for us then. Going back to this place and remaking the game for the next generation of gamers to experience it feels just as big, if not bigger, says Adam Badowski, the head of the studio at CDPR. So, of course, The Witcher being, the foundation of their studio, of course, based on the novels, the Witcher novels that the TV show is based on as well. That being said, I'm very, excited to see this. I think anything being built in Unreal Engine 5 is exciting just because everything we've seen from the new version of the engine looks very, very impressive. Obviously, Lumen and the lighting systems, and I'm forgetting the other name, Nanite of the texturing and the polygon systems they have. Looks very, very impressive. I'm very curious to see more in this engine. Of course, we had that Unreal Engine 5 demo I want to say about almost a year back now, probably, that Matrix Awakens demo, as well as some other, of course, once it was publicly released, you got a ton of other community created and some, developer created creations in that demo in some other parts of the engine. It looks incredible. I've seen a lot with particle works, especially in even visual effects. I've seen a lot of film, visual effects artists using Unreal Engine 5 to create film effects, live simulated smoke and particles and fire in a real, film shot. It's very, very cool to see what's going on with just the future of game engines in general, but specifically Unreal and even the future of Unity as well. I'm very, very excited for all of the new engine stuff for sure. So anything in the new engine is cool, but to see a full game remade, especially an original game, which I've actually tried personally. I could not get into The Witcher 1 just because I tried to, not that the gameplay was totally inaccessible or anything at this point in time. I just wasn't, getting into it at the moment. That being said, Unreal Engine 5, brand new, fully fledged AAA quality, I would definitely, be more willing to jump back into the Witcher universe and give it another shot, with all that being said. So I did want to mention this as well because it is a collaboration with Fool's Theory. They said collaborating with Fool's Theory on the project is just as exciting as some of the people there have been previously involved in the Witcher games. They know the source material well. They know how much gamers have been looking forward to seeing the remake happen, and they know how to make incredible and ambitious games. And although it will take some time before we're ready to share more about the game, I know it'll be worth the wait. So, of course, it's probably in very early stages of development. I'm giving probably a year or two before we even hear more about this. Even in earlier stages, I think still a ways off. That being said, I like that they said they know the source material well. This was something I didn't really cover. I didn't really think I would cover on the show because it was more TV news. That being said, it is video game related, and I thought I would kind of just wrap it in here, which was that Henry Cavill had spoken this week, as well as one of the showrunners on the Witcher TV show, about how they were not exactly happy with some of the crew on the Witcher TV show, saying they were not really invested in the games and even to some extent disregarded or disrespected the original novels and video games, saying that they weren't really interested in those stories and wanted to change them. That being said, they were not happy with that, of course, because if you want someone giving a faithful adaptation or even just a good adaptation in general, whether they want to change things or not, you would hope that they have passion for the original, art and why people love that original IP. Whatever makes it great is the reason probably why they're adapting it into another medium. So you'd want to respect that to some extent, I think, of course. So I think especially in an industry of media and art and entertainment where it's all about the passion for that, what that piece of art is trying to say. I think it's a little disheartening to hear when you see is the whole crew of people doesn't really care about what's being made. It's more so about just getting it done. And that's one of those things where you don't really, it's not just a job is done, a job is done. I think in media, especially because a lot of times when you're in games or film and art, you got to make something that really moves people and really, impacts them. And that's what we're going after. You're looking for that fun, that entertainment, or that engagement. If it's a TV show or a drama, you're looking for something to grip the audience. So I think that, hearing here, at least on the game side of things, that they're bringing together people who are at least passionate about what they're creating and know the source material. I think that's a great sign. I'm not saying everyone who works on everything has to be a diehard fan of the franchise and know every detail of the lore or anything like that. That being said, I think it always helps to have people who know what they're the franchise they're working on, being able to run things and make sure that those authenticities and all of that is being accounted for. I think it's very important, especially in the adaptation side of things. That being said, that kind of wraps up my thoughts on The Witcher here. We are going to move on to something else here. This is a continuation on Hideo Kojima's new game. So a few weeks back on the show, we got a little bit of a teaser from him. We discussed what he had been talking about with his new cloud gaming experience under Xbox, and also the possibility of the separate Death Stranding sequel, Death Stranding 2, most likely. Probably as a separate project, still working with PlayStation on that end. So he's kind of got dipping his toe in both sides of the pond here with PlayStation and Xbox. We did get that teaser with, I believe it was Elle Fanning, the actress, and a lot of people were, suggesting it could be related to Death Stranding, given some character names. I won't say anything spoilery there for the Death Stranding universe, but given Norman Reedus being the star of the first game, there were some implications of the character relations, and people were wondering what, who would be the new character, actors and actresses for the new characters. It seems that that's more related there. So this is more of a continuation of the cloud gaming story we covered about, way earlier in the summer. And Hideo Kojima has said that one of his next games is almost like a new medium. So speaking about adapting games to other mediums, he's saying this game has been something that he's been trying to make for a long time. I believe this has to be that Xbox Cloud game. Again, that's not confirmed here, but he's talked about similar things with Xbox Cloud technology, about how they just couldn't make the game they wanted to make with that cloud technology in the past until it was available now. That being said, he has said here that this game itself is almost like a new medium, meaning that, again, this is a very broad statement here, but whatever this game is, however you interact with it, however you play it, is different than how you've played any game before, is what he's saying. So again, this could sound kind of hyperbolic or, a big statement, but coming from Kojima, many consider to be one of the greatest, gaming visionaries, of our generation. I think that it's something that, people should take notice of and question what exactly he means by that. It's something I literally, you can go back. I should have got the recording. I probably say this once a week on the show, but I said last week how the reason I love video games personally is because it's not just, one interactive medium, but it's basically a sandbox for all different types of a flexible medium, because how you interact with the game, of course, is limited these days by your screen, your controller, your input, but that continues to evolve. And what we mean by that, we see that with virtual reality. We see that with new accessible controller options and letting more and more people who couldn't play games in the past be able to play games in different ways now that are accessible to them. I think accessibility is really one of the pillars of gaming right now. I think for good reason, and it should be, because I think the more we can figure out how to make gaming not just, a one lane street where you have to play games this way and this is what they are. I think more and more people are seeing that video games are just another avenue to tell incredible, engaging stories that maybe you couldn't really tell in other traditional mediums that didn't have, this level of engagement. So thinking more and more of how we can engage with games differently is something that's just really, really interesting to me. And I think that video games are almost the ultimate medium, or the end all be all of mediums to an extent. And maybe we have to evolve beyond the name of video games to really include that. Maybe it's interactive media, or just, the new wave of media in general. I'm not sure what you would call it with the new generation, the internet, and everything else. We'll have to see how it evolves. But again, it's just a very fascinating topic for me. And again, speaking on what Kojima had said directly here, he had said, as I said before, it's something he'd want to make for years. He said, quote, "It's almost like a new medium. If this succeeds, it will turn things around, not just in the game industry, but in the movie industry as well." So again, that's something that I don't really have much else to say there. It's kind of all what I just said. It's really something that's just fascinating to me. It's exciting. There's not much else to say because there's no concrete information here. It's very much just big talk, but for good reason. I think it's the kind of talk that gets me excited about the future of tech and gaming in general. The way he said it's not just for the future of games, but for the future of movies. I love that. Obviously, I'm definitely a film guy as well. I like the way he works with real actors. Of course, we've seen many games working with voice actors and other famous actors to create very detailed motion capture scenarios where it's really an actor's performance being portrayed directly into the game. Of course, assisted by incredible artists and animators as well. It's really fascinating what we're seeing these days in terms of narrative storytelling in games. So again, I could talk about this all day long. We're getting to the halfway point here, so I will move on in a moment. But I do think this is something to definitely keep our eyes on. Whether or not Death Stranding 2 plays a part into this, I think will be interesting. But I think this new Xbox project is something different. I think it's something very interesting. He did say as well down here, I want to reiterate, he said it's normally the third person to a new idea who is likely to succeed commercially. Meaning, if you're a pioneer for a new idea, people may not get it yet, they may not understand it yet. In the history books, you may, well be known as the first ever, but it's probably going to be the second or third who really iterates on that and kind of fine tunes it that gets that really big market push. That's something he said. So he said, I don't care though. He said, quote, "But I want to be the first. I want to keep being the first." I really like that whole idea of it. I think it's a very auteur way of thinking. When you talk about filmmakers or even musical artists, the way this, I want to be that trailblazer. I want to be the first person to change the medium. I really, I can only admire that kind of way of thinking, especially from a talented game maker like Kojima. So I'm very curious to see, how he comes into maybe, a new renaissance of game making for him. I think after so many great games in the past. That being said, I think the future is very bright. I've been saying this a lot today on the show, but I think, with newer game creators and older game creators alike, I think we're going to see a lot of new, really interesting concepts as the medium continues to unfold and grow. That being said, there's not much else I could say here. They just talk more in this article about his ongoing relationship with Xbox Game Studios as well as PlayStation, with Death Stranding being a console exclusive there and still having that Death Stranding deal. And he still has a very good relationship with Sony, as of now, as well as Xbox. So it'll be really cool to see what comes next from Kojima. But that's about, as you can tell, I'm about at the end of what I could say on that. I do want to move on here to something else with Naughty Dog, actually. Speaking of The Last of Us and Uncharted developer, we got some new news from them, something that may not be related to either of those games. So we will pull this up here. And as you can see on the headline on screen, we hear PlayStation is potentially building a new, smaller studio or maybe just a new team to work on a new game in collaboration with Naughty Dog. So this is something we heard via job listings, actually, and there's actually a follow-up to this story. We'll continue. As you see, I just have Naughty Dog rumors here. There's a little more to this as well after this article. But we see here, of course, as the article says, a job listing showed that they're looking for people to work not on The Last of Us exactly, but work with the visual arts team at Sony on a new project. So I'll read the quote here. The quote is, "The high visibility project is being developed in collaboration with Naughty Dog," the job listing reads. Quote, "Though currently unannounced, we have a clear vision and plan to release. Using our existing expertise and premier talent, we will guarantee a high visual quality bar for the game and a compelling, experience for our players." That being said, as I said before, this is coming from PlayStation Studios Visual Arts. The Visual Arts team has basically worked on every first-party game from PlayStation in the last few years here. They worked on Last of Us Part 1. They were actually leading, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, leading the Last of Us Part 1 project until somewhere through development, Naughty Dog needed some, more expertise or something, or had, employees to put onto another project and said, let us come back and help, take over that project again and work on the Last of Us remake. So they were working in collaboration there. It seems that that collaboration there maybe sparked some interest in a new project together. Maybe those teams really worked, meshed well together and had a great workflow. So that being said, although the visual arts team has worked on other games like God of War, I believe they worked on Spider-Man as well, Days Gone even. I have to clarify exactly all the games worked on, but pretty much most of the PlayStation third-party games, they've jumped around and assisted and even shared techniques across studios. And I think that's one of PlayStation's real strongest assets they have that Xbox maybe doesn't have as much of yet, which they think they would really benefit from with all the studios they acquired, is to share the knowledge, share things around like Sony studios have. You've seen them using different visual techniques, different animation techniques that people have learned, say, from the Last of Us game, and then putting it into Spider-Man or the Days Gone or the God of War, and sharing these things with photo mode, especially. I believe Naughty Dog and Insomniac Games definitely has shared their photo mode techniques with the rest of the studios. So I think obviously being under the same PlayStation Studios brand, it would definitely benefit everyone from sharing from this stuff. And you see here that studio has kind of been the jack of all trades and has been going around studio to studio and handling a lot of these visual arts, as their name implies, the animations, the assets and what have you. It's great that they're kind of leading something on their own now on top of this Last of Us remake, and could be very well be a new IP. Maybe it's a new Uncharted project. Maybe it's something different. Who knows what it could be from Naughty Dog. I think the joke here in the article, yeah, they wrote Uncharted Territory. I saw that earlier when I was reading the article. I thought that was a funny subtitle there. But um, speaking of the Uncharted series, of course, I won't spoil anything from the last game, but Naughty Dog did leave that series open to a potential sequel, spiritual successor that could go on in a new light. And I think a new era for the Uncharted series at some point, maybe later on in the PlayStation 5's life cycle. I think that'd be great to go back to Uncharted. Of course, we're also waiting on, though, besides this collaboration here from the main Naughty Dog studio, we're waiting on that Last of Us multiplayer game. That's the big thing. They confirmed it this Summer Game Fest. We covered that on the show. We had that screenshot we got. Other than that, nothing else. That being said, I'm going to move to this article here because we have more from another job ad listing here. So obviously Naughty Dog is hiring for these games coming out in the imminent future. And that being said, this job listing did mention more on the free-to-play aspect of this game. So this is something we kind of hypothesized back then. We talked about PlayStation's live service approach and how we might see a lot more live service, potentially free-to-play games. That being said, it seems we were correct here that it looks like on this job listing here, and I'll read this quote. This was proven experience in a production role supporting a AAA free-to-play live title. So again, that's what they're looking for there in a job position, that a proven experience. But as it says there, in a production role supporting a AAA free-to-play live title, that implies obviously what it says right there. It's in plain text there, but it probably implies that is the Last of Us multiplayer game. I don't think there's any other free-to-play live title that Naughty Dog is working on right now that we're at least aware of. That'd be kind of a surprise to see us get that Naughty Dog Last of Us multiplayer game and also another live service game for them on the horizon. Maybe an Uncharted multiplayer experience. I'm not sure, but that would be kind of a shock. But that being said, it's very, very safe to say, I think, that this is the Last of Us multiplayer game. Of course, all the articles covering this are also making the same assumption that it is directly for the Last of Us multiplayer. Again, it doesn't say that exactly in the job description, I believe, but I think we can again just assume that as we see here. Again, the rest of the article is very much just older news here. It was confirmed that it'll be a standalone title earlier in the year, and that Sony is planning on releasing 12 live service games by 2025. We talked about that earlier in the summer, so it does seem to reason that this is going to be in line with that strategy, and this will be the live service game from Naughty Dog. But we'll wait and see. Maybe it's more than that. Who knows? Definitely interested to see what comes from them next. I'm still dying for a PlayStation showcase, maybe before the end of the year. It was around September where I started saying this again. We did get that shorter state of play. That was mostly some third-party titles, some titles from Japanese developers. I think it was still a great state of play. Don't get me wrong. We covered it here in the show, so you can see my thoughts on it there if you go back. But I think we're still looking to see that, some of these big upcoming titles from PlayStation Studios. And I think, hopefully we see more on that soon. But that being said, we will continue on here. Really getting through the docket today. We might be under an hour today pretty easily. We'll see. But we're going to be moving on to Rocksteady. This is an unfortunate one. Kind of a bittersweet one. Maybe for the best. We will have to wait and see. But I'm already getting ahead of myself here. This is that the Batman Arkham Studio, Rocksteady, as I mentioned, the co-founders are actually leaving the company they founded. So this report came only 2 days ago, I believe, and this is the co-founders, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, who helped create the Batman Arkham series from the ground up. They created Rocksteady, the studios themselves. They co-founded it. They are now leaving the studio after their development on Suicide Squad, the Justice League, Kill the Justice League, excuse me. So they are looking for a new adventure in gaming, they have said. I'm not sure that we are exactly sure what they're going to do next, but given that they are the co-founders of a major gaming studio and they are leaving together as one, it seems to me at least that they will be starting maybe a new venture together, or maybe either whether that's a new smaller indie studio, whether that's them leading a team at a larger studio or getting hired somewhere else. I think that's either of those are a very strong possibility. But I do think they would probably stick together, given that they left together as a closure to their career at Rocksteady for some time. That being said, he said here in an open letter, this was David Haddad, president of Warner Brothers Interactive, so not Rocksteady. He said, with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League nearly finished, they have both decided to leave Rocksteady at the end of 2022 and begin a new adventure in gaming. So again, it's not clear what that adventure will be. We also had a message from them directly, though, directly from the Rocksteady website, and IGN kind of summarizes that nicely here for us. Excuse me. I'm reading through this as I speak, so I apologize if I'm stumbling there. I'm not sure I'm going to read the entire statement because it is a bit lengthy, but I will have the links in the description. I do recommend, if you are curious, to look into this story. But it's a very nice letter from them. They started this company all the way back in 2004, and now they are moving on to something different and special. Of course, they are very happy and honored to work on DC Batman type franchises. Of course, it's a very nice message here. Again, I would agree. I would argue reading that later if you are interested in the story. That being said, they leave behind again a major legacy with the Batman Arkham series. It was definitely the spark, I think, the inspiration for a lot of other superhero games and just combat systems in general in games. A lot of things that the Arkham series pioneered. I think, obviously, if you're a fan of the series, you would agree. Was definitely a great point in gaming history for sure. Not much else to say here. It's kind of just a bittersweet one. That being said, I'm again, of course, curious to see what this duo will do next. And I'm curious to see what the Kill the Justice League, the Suicide Squad game will look like. What comes next for Rocksteady? A lot of people were commenting online that they were hoping for some new Rocksteady games, and hopefully we'll see. What will happen next year. I'm not sure if they'll stick with the DC IP, if they'll move on to something else. A lot of people had talked about a potential Ninja Turtles game under Rocksteady. Would be really cool with the kind of a New York City setting, similar to the way the Gotham City games handle, that heavy combat and open world exploration. I think that'd be pretty cool. And we did hear from IDW earlier this year that we're gonna get a Ninja Turtles game next year. So that'd be a kind of a cool rumor. I'm not sure. I think that was just a rumor I saw online, but that'd be pretty interesting. I thought I'd mention that briefly. But other than that, not much else to say there. We're not sure what happens next for Rocksteady, but I'm curious to see again how the Suicide Squad game looks. Again, after the films as well. I'm sure they'll probably pull on some of the film popularity as well. But again, there's kind of a separation there. I believe the game got delayed a few times, so we're going to see how that plays out. But from what we saw, earlier, it does look something to be excited about. Gotham Knights has not gotten the hottest reviews, unfortunately. But again, that's not a Rocksteady game, so keep that in mind. But we will see what's next for the DC Universe games, as well as the Marvel games. There's a lot coming up with that next year. But that said, we're going to continue on here to the Callisto Protocol. As you can see, that is next on the docket. So I'm going to move that up. But this one comes after we did get a lot of ratings for the Callisto Protocol, I believe, earlier this week and last week in the US and some other regions. But in Japan, we actually got notice that the game will no longer be releasing. So this is because there were some censorship notices. The game was flagged for potential. I'm not sure if they even clarified what kind of content it was. But it was, some sort of explicit or violent content. And the Japan Ratings Board decided that the game cannot be released in this format, or will have to have a severe rating, and it either has to be censored to get, the mature rating, or it cannot be released. That being said, the developers of Callisto Protocol then decided that they are not going to release the game in Japan whatsoever. They don't want to censor the game at all. Maybe it seems to be the case here that it was to a level where they probably couldn't really censor the game without sacrificing core systems. The game, we haven't shown much of it on the show, but, for the similar reasons of why I'm discussing now. But the game has notably had, some very, very gory animations. Again, this is a spiritual successor to the Dead Space series from the same creator. The Dead Space remake is coming out early next year, I believe early January. Well, this is coming out this December. So direct competition, as we've said, between the former Dead Space creator and the remake coming from EA and his former studio. So it's kind of an interesting situation there. But that being said, looks to be very gory, gruesome game, and as we said, they are not compromising on that vision, and it's just not going to be released in the region, unfortunately. That being said, VGC, who originally covered on this, reminded me that games like Gears of War, GTA, and Call of Duty have been edited for release in Japan over the years in the past. That being said, this game is not willing to edit itself. I guess there are certain gore and probably blood and there's dismemberment. There's aliens and there's chopping off arms. I don't want to get too into it, to keep PG here, but I do think that it's probably I'd assume it's the visual and gore aspect is what is being censored here and the violence of it, rather than anything like explicit language or nudity or anything like that kind of content. I think this is more along the lines of blood and gore and just inappropriate violence. I think that's what's going on here. Again, I'm not saying we're promoting that kind of content or anything in this game. I'm just saying that unfortunately for those players in Japan who would be into this kind of horror and content, they unfortunately are not going to be able to experience this game, at least in a native version anytime soon. They may have to import the game. I'm sure I've seen people order games from other regions and be able to play them that way. So maybe if you're a Japanese fan and you're a diehard Dead Space fan or just a fan of what this game looks like in general, maybe there are ways to get around this. But unfortunately, that region is not going to see an official release of the game, which is sad to say for them. But that being said, I'm looking at some of the notes here, and they said in the article that the game also uses haptic feedback in some visceral ways, including letting the player feel a bone breaking or feeling the snapping of a bone of an enemy in your hand. And again, this is like Dead Space and like some other games. You can die in some very gruesome and disgusting ways from these alien creatures. Again, it's a horror game. It's a kind of shock horror. Not so much I think jump scares here, but more so just that visceral gore type horror. So again, not much else to say on that. We did get some news that it is going to be running in a 30 FPS or 60 FPS mode, with some visual toggles, their performance toggles there on next gen consoles. So that's good to hear. And that's about it from that article. So yeah, it's unfortunate to see any game get delayed or canceled or censored or barred in any region. But hopefully, everyone can get to enjoy that game. If they want to, and they can figure out a way to play it. Again, that being said, I hope that all works out. That being said, we are going to move on to our last story or two here today. This is just kind of wrapping up some light news here. We did get another leak earlier this week, actually. This is actually something that happens probably every month or so for this. And this is the PlayStation Plus free games for November. So as I said, about every month or so, we have a leak of what's going to be the next month's PlayStation Plus games or Xbox Live Gold games for the period. And then of course, it gets released about a day or two later when they realize it was leaked online. Everybody knows, and they might as well just release the press release here again that here are our next month's games. So that's what happened this week again. It was about earlier in the week. I want to say Monday or Tuesday, and then on Wednesday or Thursday, Sony and PlayStation themselves confirmed the titles. That being said, we are getting Neo 2, kind of that Souls-like meets Ninja Gaiden type game. Game I haven't played much. I played a little bit of Neo 1. I couldn't really get into it just because I'm not the biggest Dark Souls player. I can get very frustrated very quickly with a lot of those games. It takes a while to learn the combat system and things like that. So that being said, I know Neo especially Neo 2 is a really beloved game by a lot of people. It has a large community. So if you're into like kind of getting into a grind of a certain game and learning combat systems, and I believe it's a little more fast paced, very not exactly a Souls-like, but kind of has elements of it, but a little more fast paced Ninja Gaiden like esque combat there. So definitely want to check out as the main game. It's on PS5 and PS4, as well as Heavenly Bodies. This is a game I really don't know much about, to be honest. I know that it's a physics-based game. They're saying it right here. I'm again, it's zero gravity, and there's some puzzle stuff. And they're saying here it's space themed. I really don't know much about Heavenly Bodies, other than some screenshots I've seen of the artwork. So I will say take that with a grain of salt if you want to look at more into that game. But that's also a PS5 and PS4 title. And then they also are giving us Lego Harry Potter collection just for the PS4. But if you're a Harry Potter fan, very nice to get all of that. I believe that's all of the movies in Lego form, just like the Star Wars games and the Indiana Jones Lego games and Marvel and all those brands they have, where they have a lot of the the storylines throughout. So very cool to see there. But again, those were leaked earlier this week. I'm not sure we have any news on next month's rather, but same thing, same difference there. It's next week anyway. Xbox Live Gold games. We're gonna have to wait on those, but maybe I'm mistaken here. Maybe we saw those already, but nothing yet. But then again, we'll see more on Game Pass as well as the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers as well. I'm sure we'll get a large, bump on the library where we'll see probably 10, 15 or so, maybe less, 5, 10 games added just in general to those subscribers who have the premium tiers and get those higher level of the game collection. That being said, we did get one more piece of news from PlayStation that was actually updated about like an hour before I started the show today. So I was going to report something slightly different on this story. But I'm happy to say, I'm actually not happy to say this is what the reality is. So we did get some news earlier this week that PlayStation and Discord integration was finally happening. So this is something that again I've talked about probably 3-4 times in the show now, over and over, waiting for this to actually take place. About a year or so ago now, Sony announced that not only were they announcing this partnership between Sony and Discord, they were actually taking an investor stake in Discord, the company. So they were investing in Discord directly, and they were making sure that eventually we would have Discord integration both on the Discord app and then with PlayStation voice chat, so that you could actually have a Discord server or a PlayStation voice chat merge together and have people in a PlayStation chat, an Xbox chat, PC, all in one Discord server on your PlayStation itself, not on some, third party, laptop or your phone or anything like that. You could have everyone on one voice chat playing one crossplay game and have no worries about miscommunication. It seemed like the perfect solution to something that's been a problem for literally, as far as I can remember with online gaming, of having people on different platforms. Now, the more and more we have these cross-platform games, like a game like Call of Duty, who came out today, if you want to play with one friend who's on PC, your one friend's on Xbox, you have a PlayStation, that was always something you had to juggle, especially, crossplay in general was a great addition that you could actually play in one server together, but still you had to find a Discord server, get a phone call, and make sure you could actually hear each other and talk separately since you're on different platforms. You didn't have the same voice chat. Now with this integration, and we've seen it in Xbox already, which I'll talk about in a second, you could have everyone on all platforms in one voice chat, and there's no worry about who has a PlayStation, who has an Xbox. It all just works, and that's really great to hear. That being said, here's the caveat here, and here's the bad news. So we first heard about this a year ago from PlayStation. They put money into Discord themselves. We didn't hear anything else for about another year or so. Then it was about May 2021, I believe. Come this May, earlier before the summer this year, May 2022, we still hadn't heard anything, and then we then heard from PlayStation that it's still happening. It's like, so we said, okay, it's still happening sometime later this year, maybe this summer. We'll wait on it. Then about a month or two ago, we saw from Xbox that no press release, no announcement, no investment, nothing like that. Just Xbox and Discord have partnered, and Xbox voice chat is now integrated into Discord, and you can do that right now. And that was about a month or two ago. And I said, I think I had reported on the show, and I said, wait a minute, where's this PlayStation news coming here? So then, updated to this week, we saw online. I was finally thinking, all right, this is it. Here we go. We got these screenshots from a Twitter user, which led us all to believe that integration was happening. It was getting put into the Discord UI, that we'll see it on PlayStation imminently in the next PlayStation update. Maybe we'll have to see. That being said, that was what I was reporting on today on the show. Then about, again, 30 minutes to an hour before I started the show today, we get this article claiming that it's not going to be happening until March 8th, 2023. And the reason is because that is the next large-scale update, the 7.00 update for the PlayStation 5 UI. So they are not planning on putting this in any of the smaller updates. They're waiting on the next 7.00, the full version 7 update, which is not until March 8th rather of 2023. So still a few months to go here. Again, maybe this could be proven incorrect. That being said, this comes from some sources behind the last week's update, showing that these things are still being tested. They're being integrated right now, and they're being planned for the next major update of the system. So a little longer to wait here is pretty unfortunate, especially with the launch of a lot of especially like Call of Duty and a lot of cross-platform games this fall. It'd be nice to have that a little sooner and have all of your Warzone games and all of your multiplayer sessions across platforms have this voice chat feature. That being said, that game actually does have a built-in voice chat feature that's still a little buggy, but if that can get worked out, that'll be good for all you Call of Duty players. But that being said, for just the general players in general who want to chat on their Discord servers and play their games on their platform of choice, we're going to wait a little longer for us all to be connected on the same level here. So far, it's just Xbox and PC. Sony still is disconnected here. We're almost there. In March, we should all be able to game on our platform of choice and still chat all together which again is a very cool feature. Still waiting on a Nintendo Switch Online to jump on that. I'm not sure. I know their VoIP services aren't the best suited. I'm not sure if they even have voice over internet protocol, is what I'm saying there. The protocol to actually have voice chat over these games. I'm not sure if how that works on Nintendo Switch Online. I'm not a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online, so I can't say there, but I do know some pieces of the puzzle there. So we're going to have to wait and see on that front. But hopefully, again, everyone can just be able to hop in Discord in a way that's very streamlined and doesn't require like multiple devices for people to make that setup work. But that being said, that's about all I have to say on the PlayStation Discord setup. And it also brings me, as you can see, to the end of our docket today. So not the longest show today. We had a bit of news, but it kind of went pretty fast, through the docket today. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me and hearing everything that was new this week. Nothing else too crazy on the docket. I looked this morning, as I said as well, for any breaking news, but I do think we'll get some more next week as well, of course, on the next episode. That'll definitely be worth talking about as we get closer to, of course, God of War Ragnarok comes early November. We have Sonic Frontiers as well the day before that. I'm always forgetting that. We'll have some coverage on both of those. And of course, the end of the year, the Game Awards are coming up. I'm not sure the exact date this year. I believe it's December 8th. We reported on this a few weeks back, but I just don't have it in front of me. So I'm maybe forgetting in the moment. But we have a lot coming up in the fall. So get ready for the Game Awards, some new releases, and hopefully, you're going to see a lot more on all those tons of games that were delayed into 2023. Similar to last year, we had a lot of delays into this year, and then a lot of them just kept going. So I think 2023 is going to be the big one. I really don't think we're going to see the same kind of large scale pushbacks that we have been over the past 2-3 years or so, of course, with COVID. But I think we, stay the course here, get excited, because I think we're going to have a lot of awesome game announcements and just gaming, developments in general. Of course, PSVR coming out very soon in Q2, but this is, Q1 rather. So this is, when we do at the end of the show, we love to just look at what's ahead and what's happening next. So every week I'm always, excited to see what's in store there. Maybe we'll get another conference here before the Game Awards, as I said, with PlayStation or Xbox even. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's about it. So I want to thank everyone, as always, for joining the show today. You may have noticed we had some new thumbnails. I'm trying to get those in a little bit retroactively so we can have some, keep everything relevant today. We had that Fallout TV show screenshot, so we put that in the thumbnail. Thought that looked pretty cool, but we're going to keep those, current, and we'll have, a weekly story, something like that from now on. So stay tuned for those. But if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, anything else, please reach out. I will say before I go here, before I thank you one last time, I would recommend checking out the Endless YouTube channel, seeing our past reports, seeing our past tutorials, our videos, our dev videos, and staying tuned for what comes next, because we have a lot more to come on the learning programs. We have some new projects coming up I'm pretty excited about. Shouldn't say anything too soon yet, but if you guys are enjoyed what we did this summer with the learning projects, I think you're going to really, really want to stay tuned to our Discord, to the Endless Studios page here on the YouTube channel. I'll be talking more about what's coming next very, very soon. And we'll even maybe have some streams or some Endless Report integrations or some live streams here around that as well. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. I'm getting excited about the end of the year here at Endless. But all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your weekend here. Start the weekend off great. I think it's a great end of the week here. It's one of the last things I do on a Friday is getting to do a podcast about everything that's going on in the gaming industry. So I love to be able to do this. And I really thank you all for sticking with me and tuning in. It's been awesome. So again, have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you on the next episode of the Endless Report. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to bring that screen up, and I will see you all on the next episode. Take care.